So it's a little. All right. So today I wanted to talk about something. The last time I talked about it's kind of interesting because it started some lively discussions afterwards. Um, but the topic is, kindness, right? So when sometimes being kind can become a detriment, which kind of goes against the way a lot of us are raised and taught, right? And so, and this comes from the work of Neville Goddard. So I'm going to talk about what he said about it, and you can draw your own conclusions. But it's it's something to think about, right? And so when you think about kindness, does it come from a place of need where you feel you need to be kind for some reason, or does it come from a selfless place where it's just it's no big deal? And because I think what begins to happen, and this makes sense to me, is when kindness loses being a choice, right, and seems like a moral duty that you have to be kind, you could be burying some of the things you need, right? And and then a lot of people, they go too far the other way, they're not kind at all, right? But I love the expression I heard once where it's like a premeditated an expectation is a premeditated resentment. So if you're kind to someone expecting that they're going to do something in return, and then it doesn't happen, which happens a lot, right? Then you got a resentment, And I know we got some great marketers on here. You got you know, uh, Bob Labrie, Bruce, and that. But like, remember back in was it the 90s when the book Psychology or the Persuasion book by Cialdini, and he talked about the law of reciprocity. And I heard a talk he gave the other day is that's really changed in the last couple of decades, right? It still works somewhat, but it's not like it used to be. And then I heard him talk a long time ago about this reciprocity, being kind or doing something for someone. If they're in a position of power, they take it for granted. You're deflecting to the king. Is he this guy? It's like, eh. And how many of us, if you do it all the time, and this is what happens, if you're overly kind all the time, people that you're helping feel entitled. It's not kindness. It's just like, this is what you should do, even though you're going out of your way. Anybody here ever raised a teenager or been around teenagers? That's kind of a state, they go through, right? And so that's, when he was talking about that, I go, oh, okay. Because it was one of his first talks I listened to that I'm like, I don't know if I buy it, but I listened to it again. That one resonated with me too, is if you do it all the time and you do it to people, and they just expect that this is what you're always going to do, right? Because if that's happening, the kindness isn't flowing from a sense of wholeness, that that you just do it without anything. As they say in the 12-step world, which is where I learned it, a true thing, if you're truly being kind or being nice to people, is can you do it and not let anybody know? Right? Some things you hold the door open, things like that. There's, put those aside. But I mean, if you like help somebody out, they're down on their luck, you help them pay a bill, you do something good for them, right? But they don't know who did it. Can you keep it zipped and just, let it happen? A friend of mine tells a story that happened to him, and he helps this person out, and the person thought it was someone else, so they were thanking him in a group, and of course the person that was getting the kudos just was like, yeah, thank you, and he's like, you didn't do it, I did it, I paid the bill. But then he goes, he had to check himself, like, no, I see what you mean. Okay, what did he do it out of, right? So can you do it? Can you be kind? Can you do acts of niceness without ever letting other people know, right? Then it becomes, you're setting those boundaries, because many times if you get lost in this, you lose your boundaries, you lose your sense of self, right? And it's all about balance. And the talk, I think it was a talk he gave in New York in the 40s, I think, but he talked about that's the paradox is finding the balance, having boundaries, still being kind, but set boundaries, right? And then, and don't sacrifice yourself, your self-worth, what when I teach the behavior profiling the way the FBI teaches it, you have a certain subset of people, their primary social need is the sense of approval or belonging, which may or may not be bad, except if you're really in that group, you'll make decisions and you'll do things that you really don't want to do because you don't want to be excluded from the group or not get approval from other people, right? And so it's that does it serve your energy, or if there's no energetic even reciprocity, even then maybe you have to look at it. So again, it's the paradox of being kind, caring, and compassionate, but having your boundaries. Can you say no? And some people, let's be honest, we see it in the business world a lot, right? Those of us, well, we see it everywhere, is certain people are good at pulling the overly, wanting you to be overly nice for their self-benefit, has nothing to do with you, right? And so it's like, and then if you're seeking approval, they got you, and if you ever dealt with a narcissist or people like that, that's part of the hook. But I'll tell one quick story of my own where I was going to this conference a lot, several years. Small hypnosis conference. It was fun, right? And I liked it. But the only reason I went, to be honest with you, my daughter was in the Navy and she was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. And so the conference, doesn't really, it's not my thing, but I'll go to this conference and have some fun and see my daughter, when she would not be deployed. She was in the Navy if she wasn't out to sea. Or even if she was out to sea, I'd go there, hang around, check on her condo, make sure everything's good, start her car, do that dad stuff that you like to do. And well, then she re-enlisted and got transferred out of Norfolk and went to DC. So the guy had me down to teach, and I said, well, I'll teach, but if I don't get enough signups in this class, I can't show up. It doesn't make economic sense to me, right? And I knew that I started off on the wrong foot with him overall, and I like the guy. Well, he's gone now, but we didn't have the numbers, and I said, well, it's really no, I'm not coming. It's and he's like, oh, and he was trying to pull the kindness card. What will other people think? What about this? And I'm like, well, I got other stuff I could be doing, right? And there was something we could have done, but he refused to do it. Guy said, well, we got this many students. Instead of giving it 50-50, if you did it maybe 75-25 me or 80-20, I could come. He said, well, I can't do that. It wouldn't make economic sense. And I'm like, well, this is reciprocity. So I bowed out. But it's that, those social needs that we have, the need to be strong, the need to get approval, to be a part of a group, the need for intelligence, all these social needs, which I'll be speaking on this weekend at the Solid Gold in Las Vegas for the National Guild. So anyway, it's that paradox. I know Neville Goddard talked a lot about it. The other paradox is, the strength paradox. You want to be strong, but if you're too strong, you become rigid. It's I know here in Florida, not where a lot of you people are, we compare it the difference between a palm tree and an oak tree. The oak tree is strong, but it'll break in the wind. But the palm trees, I mean, I've seen them in my front yard literally bend almost down to the ground and come back, right? So if it's the idea of strength or power, right? And it's all about getting that balance. And this idea of kindness going overboard where you lose your sense of self because you don't feel like you should just say no, or I don't want to do this, or, it sounds cold on one saying when you say, yeah, I don't want to say the term what for me, but how does this benefit both of us? Bruce or Carla, how can we do that? So it's that balance. And that's something I think we're all struggling with. And I compare a lot of things to the recovery world, the 12-step world. And I'll close with the idea, a big concept in the recovery world is you carry the message. You're kind to people and you carry the message. You do not carry the alcoholic or the addict, right? It's that paradox of, I'll help you, I'll give you this, I'll give you the advice, I'll help you where I can. I can't do the work for you, right? And I know, like, we see that in the business world where, you're doing a training, teaching people how to do it, and they just want you to do it for them. And you're like, can't do that. That's, but so anyway, it's that being overly kind, and it's the paradox that you'll constantly be working with. And so that's like what Neville Goddard thought about it, right? But I love that, the idea again that having especially unrealistic expectations will always lead to a premeditated resentment, and my last one is I'll self-disclose, right? I was walking up the health club one day, I was probably pulling up the sign-in thing on my phone, and I got to the door first, so I hold the door open. And again, so I think I'm a nice guy, but underneath it, maybe I'm not all the time. So I'm holding the door, and this guy walks by, I go, thanks. I go, oh, no problem. This girl was coming, so I held the door, and she never looked up for her phone. And I went, really? She goes, not interested. And I'm like, if I could, I'd have slammed the door on her, right? But she don't. So it's like, but again, I go back to myself. What was I expecting? Right? If I do it out of, like I did, just hold the door, it was easy. So anyway, it's that paradox that we're always working on, or at least I'm always working on. And again, carrying the message, giving the information, but you can't do the work for people. So, if you have any questions on this, I kept it short to the point, and just reach out, and I will stop the recording.